I'm doing
You.
really well. I'm so excited to have you on here today so we can kind of talk about strategy and who you are and just get into all the fun stuff because I love Christmas, but I love goal setting almost more than I love Christmas,
Yeah.
which is a weird thing. It's just my thing, right?
No,
And
I
so
agree.
I'm really excited to talk about this with you because even this weekend, I was already working on my
Mhm.
strategy for this upcoming year. So I'm really excited. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everybody who doesn't know you, and then we'll kind of just jump into some fun stuff.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds great. Thank
So
you.
tell us all the good stuff.
Okay, I'm Kendra Noel. I'm the owner of Boomtag Media, and we help service-based business owners with their digital marketing strategy. And we use LinkedIn as a main pillar. So even though we're on Instagram, I love Instagram. I'm on it all the time. LinkedIn's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I help clients do the most work is on LinkedIn.
I love that. I love that you are a LinkedIn specialist because that's definitely a part of my strategy. I never really leaned into unless I was looking for a job or unless I was looking for specific connections and growing that piece. I always kept
Mhm.
it updated, but it definitely was never part of my strategy. But I know so many coaches who do use it as their
Oh, yeah.
strategy, like their main lead source. So I have lots of fun questions
Oh,
for
okay.
you about what's coming
Great.
and then just all the different pieces with that. So now you and I got connected because you heard me on a pod. No, you met me through somebody else prior to the podcast, and then you reached out to me after the podcast I was on with Helen, right?
Right, yeah. No,
Yeah.
Helen told me I should connect with you and talk to you about some Instagram live type strategy.
Yeah.
So, and now we're getting to do it together. So that's super exciting. But yeah, I love the podcast that you were on,
Well, thank
was
you.
Sexy Freedom Media podcast
Yeah.
with Helen Edwards. Yeah, that was a great episode.
It was so fun. I loved doing that with her. I definitely have incorporated lives into my strategy this year, which has been fantastic. It's been more of a long form content piece. Um, And I understand, even like myself, like I want to listen to all the podcasts and
Hmm.
I want to watch all the YouTube. I mean, realistically, I just don't have the time capacity to do so. But
Yeah.
I do love to jump in and out of the specific ones that I'm really interested in. So it was a big turning point in my strategy this year that I used and I've really leaned into. And I've loved having these conversations, and getting to know women on a different level. Even I do talk about business, but maybe it's a different piece of their business or something that we're more
Hmm.
aligned on, right?
Yeah.
So it's been really fun. So you and I are probably the most aligned um, that I've ever had on here. So this is gonna be fun because we both really love marketing and we really love
Yes.
goal setting and we really love helping our clients hit their goals, right, when it comes to marketing. So let me ask you this. So, one of the things that we want to talk about today is our 2025 strategy. And I'm noticing on YouTube, all of the big people out there in marketing are already rolling out their 2025 strategies. Have
Mm.
you like peeked at any of them? Have you listened in on any of them?
Not really. Like, I guess I'm afraid I will get a little bit distracted from my own goals
Mm.
if I listen to too many other people talk about their goals.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's a good idea to like take in some of that, but maybe
Mhm.
not like binge on everyone else's goals, or it might get a little distracting.
It's so interesting. I've listened into two different ones and over the last couple weeks. And I don't even think I needed the second one. I had already been telling myself for probably since June or July exactly what I'm going to be doing in 2025. And I listened to this one and I was like, okay, we are so aligned. Like exactly the way she's marketing is the way I'm going to be marketing. I'm like, sweet, done, click, turn off, right? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going down my path. And then somebody brought up to me last week, and I was like, what? I never, like, didn't even know about this platform except maybe for like a podcast kind of thing. I had no idea about it. And it took me down a rabbit hole for about 25 minutes of being like, is this something I like? No, this is not. Like, I heard of this platform called Lemonade, and I was like, this is not, no, this is not where I'm going.
That's a new one. I haven't heard of that one, but
Hmm.
I've been hearing about lots of new platforms popping up too, especially in the social audio space,
Oh,
like
okay.
audio events, because of the audio
Mhm.
events ending on LinkedIn. People are talking about Go Brunch and what was the other one? I can't remember. the name of the other one.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time where people are
Yeah.
like, okay, we're moving to all these different platforms. And it's kind of like a scatter. And I'm like, I'm afraid to jump into all these new things. I want to go more with things that are
For
steady and
sure.
I know work. So that's one reason why I think the Instagram Live adding to the
Hmm.
strategy is going to be a good direction for me.
Yeah. I love it. So let's talk about what your strategy, let's talk about like what our strategies were this year, and then
Mhm.
let's talk about how we're pivoting, or maybe we're not pivoting to next year. Does that sound good?
Okay. Yeah,
All
sure.
right, perfect. You go ahead and start. What was your strategy this year?
Um, well, I know it's not as robust as yours because we had a pre-call and I was
Hmm.
like kind of blown away. So it's going to sound kind of tiny compared to what you're
That's
doing.
okay. Yeah.
Um, so I preach always email marketing, but I have to say I was not good this year about doing my own email marketing. I was, kind of like the gardener whose garden gets taken over
Oh,
by
I'm the nail
weeds.
lady. You can be the gardener
Yeah.
then.
Okay,
Absolutely.
you do the nails, I'll be the garden. So I was working
Yeah.
really hard on customers' email marketing strategy, but not my own. So it's not really a
I
pivot,
did
but
that
more of
too.
a focus in 2025. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm glad
Yeah.
I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So
So,
email marketing. Perfect.
yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm going to continue LinkedIn, is a big piece for me, of course. And then Instagram. I have really had fun this year playing with Reels.
Hmm.
Like, I before 2023, I had barely dabbled into it at all, but I was seeing that like if you're not creating reels, you're really not getting the attention. If all of your posts are just the static post without you talking or some sort of movement or
Hmm.
things like that, they were barely getting any impressions or views or likes or anything like that. So that's been a big place I've already pivoted and going to lean into even more
Yeah.
in 2025. Yeah. So, um,
How did you use LinkedIn this year? I know that this is probably going to be, so I would love to know, how did you use LinkedIn specifically to grow your business this year? What was your strategy?
um, basically, it's targeted connection growth. So, people that I
Mhm.
know would be a good fit for what I do. And LinkedIn's really great about searching particular industries and finding
Mhm.
those niche, potential
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
So going after that and then sending DM messages, like a
Mhm.
sequence of messages where they kind of get to know me. It's not salesy right up
Right.
front. Like, glad we connected is first. And then the second
Yeah.
one's like, here's a little bit about me. And you really don't
Hmm.
hit them with, I could potentially help you until like the third
Yeah.
message.
Wow. Okay. I always get those messages in LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and very few do I ever respond to, just because I don't know. Maybe it's just they're not. I'm getting, and I manage a couple LinkedIn accounts specifically for clients as well. So I feel like most of the people targeting me are not actually looking into my like profile to see like who I am and what I do. Like
Hmm.
they come at me with like all kinds of random things. I think one of them was like to sell pins or something. And then another one's like, hey, do you want to start your own coaching practice? And I'm like, oh, if you looked at my profile, I already have one.
Right.
Surprise. Right. So different things like that. So how do you use it like that to figure out the different types of clients that you may want to work with, like potential leads that you would want to even have a conversation with or even build relationships with?
Mhm. Well, for me, like small business owners is a potential client for me. So
Hmm.
I'm always looking for owners of businesses that aren't like large corporations, of
So,
course. Like that's not the right kind of marketing for me.
hmm.
Probably, a few employees, but not crazy. So you can search if you get like the upgraded LinkedIn versions, you can
Hmm.
search by how many employees the business has, that
Hmm.
kind of thing. And then people who need just need that assistance, like they know they should be doing it, and that's hard to say like to target.
Yeah.
But I find like if you just send bulk like a large amount of messages, you're
Mhm.
going to run into those people who are like, oh my gosh, I actually really do need help
Yeah.
marketing. And for the clients I do it for, like I've done it for CPAs and like certain times of year, like end of year, beginning
Right.
of year, people are like stressed about their taxes already. So if you have a
Absolutely.
CPA and you're helping them reach out to business owners, it's already on their
Yeah.
mind. And so sometimes you hit them at the time where they're like, I really do need some help, actually.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like when you start to figure out, I think the industry that you're in and the industries you love to work with, like when their demand is
Hmm.
so fun to like reach out to them and help them create demand, which is kind of another piece that people sometimes overlook, especially in marketing, right? They're not always looking for just anybody
Right,
anytime.
that's
Like
true.
there's a specific hot spot kind of area where they really need to be already ramped up. So I always like to say, okay, if you need leads, if you need to keep your business running during the fall and the summer, right? We'll go HVAC conversation here for a second. If we need to have
Hmm.
that conversation, then that means that you need to be marketing 6 months prior to the fall, 6 months prior to the summer,
Hmm.
right? So it's a constant conversation that you're having to have and kind of drip that out there. So I love that. So now I know on our last call that we had, you were talking about some changes LinkedIn is
Hmm.
having. And what is that doing for the platform, even for your own strategy and your clients as well?
Yeah, so LinkedIn has done away with the hosting of audio events like natively on their
Hmm.
platform. Like right now, we're natively on
Yeah.
Instagram, but you can't just be on LinkedIn and go live. You
Yeah.
have to use a third party, which was always the case if you were going to do a video interview like
Hmm.
this. But you used to be able to host audio rooms, which was part of my strategy before. And they were really great conversations, and people really loved them.
Mm.
So there's kind of, fits being thrown,
Yeah.
and people are all upset about the fact that
Huge.
that's going away.
Yeah. Was that kind of like a clubhouse, but for LinkedIn?
Yeah, Clubhouse, that was the platform I was trying to think of before.
Mm.
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what it was like. So they
Yeah.
couldn't be recorded,
Yeah.
which was kind of like a pro and a con. People liked
Mm.
that. It was like kind of like a safety thing. They
Yeah.
could come and be vulnerable and know that it wasn't going to get repurposed and like,
Mm.
put all over the internet.
Yeah.
But then there were other times where, people were hosting it more like a podcast style, which is
Yeah.
what I was doing. And it would have been really nice if it could be recorded and you could use that
Yeah.
um, multiple times.
Mm.
So they have done away with that. You have to use Restream or StreamYard.
Okay.
There may be some other ones, but those are the main two that you
Yeah.
have to use to go live
Hmm.
through. And you can still do it where you're not showing a video like this, like our conversation
Yeah.
today. Um, but like it would be like your little bubble head
Yeah.
instead, right? Like when you're
Yeah.
talking. And
And
you
you
can
have to have a
still,
certain amount of followers on LinkedIn. Is that right? You have to have a certain amount of followers to be able to go live. Is that right on there? Mhm.
with the change or
I thought
before.
before, I think I tried going live with Riverside at one point for somebody, and we couldn't get in. I thought it said he had to have like 1,000 connections or something like
You
that.
had to be a creator, a LinkedIn
Okay.
creator,
Mm-hmm.
which they've kind of done away with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be a creator anymore.
Oh, that's
Not
nice. Okay,
even
that's
an
wonderful.
option. It used to be something you had to toggle on. Now the
Yeah.
toggle's not even there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I love that because it's kind of like Instagram. You weren't able to use a link until you had 10,000 followers. And everybody was like, oh, I want to post a link to my thing, but I can't in my stories until I get 10,000. So everybody was just rushing to get followers just so they could post links. So I like
Mhm.
that they've opened it up to everybody now. And there's,
Yeah,
it's just, it makes sense
it
to me. I'm
does.
like, yeah, that's so cool. So my experience with LinkedIn's a little bit different. So I actually used to work for a consulting company, and she targeted women in C-suite positions, and so I would coach them to help skip level. And we used LinkedIn specifically to find these corporate women,
Hmm.
right? And we would market to them that way. So there was that. Besides that, I've actually never used it for business. I've only used it for personal connections or to look for different jobs or to if I was doing freelance projects, things like that. Like I used it for that platform. But this year, I started really leaning into it, and thank God for the help of AI, because I was able to take these long conversations like today, and I
Hmm.
was able to turn them into taking all of my own thoughts, right? But I could take my thoughts to this and I can turn it into a blog post or a LinkedIn article, and I can share it in different capacities. So I started leaning into that this year, but I also started leaning into the recommendations, which I shared with you. I was like, I didn't
Yes.
even know this was like really a
Uh-huh.
thing until I had a client actually give me a recommendation on LinkedIn, and I was like, what is this? And then I was like, and then I had to like be really hard on myself. I was like, why have I never tapped into this feature when I have worked in so many different capacities and just sharing it? So I really went down like a rabbit hole one day and just like asking people for recommendations.
Hmm.
And it turned out being a really great thing. And I also ended up getting a connection call with somebody I hadn't talked to in almost like, I think it was like, she told me, she's like, I think you had just had your baby. So at least 10 years. And it was so fun for her and I to get on and just connect again and just kind of
Yes.
where she at, where, and somebody I had mentored years ago. So it was so cool that even through that came another like reconnect
Right.
call. So I loved that. That was definitely something I leaned into this year. And next year, I'm leaning in double time onto that because I realize that those recommendations can go anywhere and everywhere to help show social
Hmm.
proof. And social proof is so important. And I'm a great coach and I'm a great mentor, but I also was a great leader at one point in different companies, right? And I was able to showcase a lot of that through these recommendations. So I think that a lot of business owners who are watching this today should definitely lean into that. Look at their work experience and look we always had those besties. We had those leaders that always would lean into a
Hmm.
recommendation for us, or, when you're filling out like a job and they're like, oh, put down 3 references. You've got your people, right? Like, have
Right.
those people left you a recommendation? That's kind of where I started thinking. I was like, I really need to lean into this
Yeah.
because this is such a cool piece that I didn't even know about, right?
I didn't know
Um,
about it either, and I love that. I knew that you could ask people to leave you a review,
yeah,
but the recommendations are different because maybe, like you
yeah,
said, you have someone you've worked with in the past, they haven't been a client of yours,
yeah,
but they can still testify that you do great work and
yeah.
that you're, good at what you do. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So I leaned into that a lot on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is definitely on my list next year to double down on because I do want to continue to showcase the work I'm doing, but I also want to be able to continue adding value at a
mhm.
different level versus maybe social media. Here I get to create more long form content, which I really do enjoy long form written content. And then you can always showcase your YouTube video or a reel. I know reels aren't very popular over there just yet. I prefer actually like more of the YouTube style, just because it also fills in the space. I don't like the white space around the link. So when you add a video there, it's like horizontal. It's kind of weird, or the vertical, excuse me. It's kind of weird to have all the white on the sides. So I like the YouTube version better because it fills up the space, which is visually appealing for myself. But that's just because of me. I'm strange, right?
Yeah. Well, they
So yeah.
just rolled out their video feed that's more like Instagram, where it
Uh-huh.
is the
Oh,
vertical
that's
style.
cool.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't even seen that come through. So I'll have to go dive in over
Uh-huh.
there
Yes.
to see what they are doing because I would love to. Next year's gonna be a lot. Like I've always been a repurpose queen kind of
Hmm.
person. I love to repurpose my content. Um, And that's why I actually will post on Facebook because Facebook memories is where my number one thing I do in the morning. Like it's like religion for me. I get up in the morning and I immediately look, not like immediately first thing, but like before I start my day, I'm like, what content in here do I need to grab so I can repurpose it either today or tomorrow or make it longer, expand on it, revamp it? How can I stretch and pull this? So my Facebook memories is key to me. I think a lot of my
Hmm.
sanity, honestly. I will repurpose photos, I'll repurpose videos, the copy, the longer the copy, the better. any motivational quotes, I will repurpose those and lean into that conversation a little bit more, or I'll just repost the quote, wherever I see fit for that as well. So
Yeah,
Facebook is good for Facebook memories and Facebook groups. That's
right.
what I believe. Other than that, it's like people I went to school with, mostly on like elementary school, middle school, high school, old careers that I've had, things like that. So they're not really exactly my target audience, but
Mhm.
it's great because they may know somebody that is looking for something that I do, right?
Yes,
So that's helpful. Like they're like, oh yeah, Cami does that stuff. You should go talk to her.
right.
So that's nice. And I used to not post on my regular Facebook. A lot of people don't. They post it just to keep it more personal. But I've actually leaned into more of the, they can skip by it if they want to see it or not. Like I need to advertise, and this is how I make my income, right? So I've accepted it and I've embraced it. So anybody watching, like I said, I highly suggest you do it as well, because that's how you and I actually met, Kendra, was through Facebook. So hey,
Yeah.
there you go. It kind of helped
That's
out with that.
interesting. Like
Yeah.
I've heard different opinions on that.
Yeah.
Like keep your Facebook just personal, invite them to like your business page, and then
Yeah.
if they like your business page, they'll see your business content.
Yeah.
Because Facebook isn't one of my main platforms that I'm
Yeah.
using, but I do, however, have Instagram repost all of my stuff to
Mm-hmm.
my Facebook business
Yeah.
page. And every once in a while, I'll reshare that to my personal
Yep.
side. But it's good to hear that you have done well with just going ahead and sharing everything over there.
Yeah. And here's my thought on it is that platforms that are staying the same are definitely Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit. Those three are staying the same. There's not much change there. My personal strategy is that I do work with a lot of professionals in healthcare and different industries, and some of them are speakers and authors, and their Facebook business page is it's crickets. It's like a graveyard over there. Nobody gets anything, right? But on their personal page, this is where their
Mm-hmm.
audience is. I know for myself, I think I have like 1.2 thousand followers or something, like friends or whatever they are over there, but that's where the eyeballs are. So why not put your content where the eyeballs are? And even if maybe it's a different format or a different image, you could still use that platform because there's eyeballs there, right? It's like a bulletin board that you're driving by. I wouldn't want to put it over behind the big tree. That's what our Facebook page, our business page is. It's like behind the big tree, right? But if we put it over on our Facebook page where other people are and the eyeballs are, then you have better chances of actually making a connection, or at least building another relationship with somebody who had no idea that's what you're doing today compared to 20 years ago. They thought you were still in whatever industry, right?
Right. That
Like,
totally
what?
makes sense. I love it.
Yeah. So that was a pivot for me. That was a
Mm-hmm.
huge pivot for me. And I started really leaning into it again, probably the second quarter of this year, because for the last 2 years, I did not use my Facebook business page or my Facebook personal page for business whatsoever. I did it heavily in 2020, 2021, and then I stopped. And then this year I decided, you know what, I'm going to move forward with this because I kept noticing professionals, all of their audience was on their personal. It was not their business. It made absolutely no sense to go start a brand new business page and put content there that's so valuable that we spend so much time
Mm-hmm.
on and nobody sees
That's
it. It just made no
true.
sense.
Yeah.
So Facebook groups I think are also fantastic. Join as many as you can. See where you can add value and always give more than you take. That's kind of my opinion when it comes to Facebook groups. And I think that that's the fun part of it. So let's move over to some of the platforms we're going to be focused on in 2025.
Okay.
What are the major platforms you're working on?
Major ones. I think they're going to continue to be the same, but I'm thinking about adding a new one, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn and Instagram are the main
Okay.
two. Of course, repurposing on Facebook, and then YouTube is the one that I'm thinking about doing more. And it's because I'm doing more conversations like this, and like
Hmm.
I have more video content that could be used. So, so far, my YouTube has one little professional video that I had when I very first opened my business.
Yay.
I got the Wyoming Women's Business Center paid. It was like a grant where you could have like a professional videographer come and like make a commercial for you, basically.
That's
That is
sweet.
all I have on my YouTube channel.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something,
Yeah.
it's a start, but I'm thinking, why not take conversations, maybe something like
Yeah.
this, and start to use them over there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. YouTube is definitely part of my strategy next year. I started leaning into a lot of these this year, more than I did in the past. YouTube in the past, I would have a client be like, "How do you do da 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 da?" And I'd be like, "Okay, I will record a video and I'll put it on my YouTube and I'll kind of create it as like a resource library for my clients." Not the best strategy when I first started, but I wasn't making long form content whatsoever, right? Or short form content in that sense. So this year I started really loving these conversations and then repurposing these conversations onto YouTube. So I use snapinsta.app, or I use snaptick, .app as well to help download these videos. And then it removes the watermark. So then from there, I can kind of chop it up and move it into different places that I use. And that has been huge for me because then I can take this video that you and I create and I can put it over on my LinkedIn, or I can share it on my Facebook.
Hmm.
And it's coming from my YouTube, which is helping grow my views on my YouTube, right? So YouTube is definitely one of those for me. So I like that you're thinking of that for your strategy. I definitely think you should. I have one other that you may be interested in, maybe not this year, but maybe the next following year as well. So my major platforms, I definitely love Instagram. I'm never going away from Instagram, but um, to start to really focus on 2025, it's going to be Pinterest for
Hmm.
me, to help grow on every single other platform. So creating those pins and pushing it out to all the other content that I'm doing. And really the only reason why, like I've planned my wedding and I my baby shower and I've created brand kits and I do all that stuff from Pinterest, but I've never used it for business. And I took this Pinterest course and they're like, Pinterest pins last up to 4 months versus your Instagram content's 48 hours, unless it goes viral, right? Well, my stuff's not going viral, and that's fine. And then it's like, stories only last 24 hours. So I'm like, yeah, that totally makes freaking sense. I'm going to do Pinterest. So this will allow us to push out to the blogs or push out to the LinkedIn articles or whatever it is. And we can put those specific links in
Hmm.
there that help drive traffic. So Pinterest is only to help me drive traffic next year. That's my goal. YouTube is definitely I'm going to be leveraging shorts and the long form videos because now finally they're linking them together to where if somebody is seeing the shorts and the long form, then you'll still be able to grow that audience. Yes, you can get paid in the future if you want to do that, but they will start to recommend other things that you're putting out there on their new algorithm. So it wasn't like that before. It used to be very separate, YouTube, long form, and shorts. Um, so I'm definitely going to be repurposing all of my reels from Instagram and putting them on my TikTok if it's still open, which I'm sure it will be. It'll be shorts on YouTube. I'll be posting them as well on my Facebook Reels, which I've never done really before. And then I'll also be putting them on my Instagram. So, and then linking those over on Pinterest, right? Because we're creating this content. We're already taking time out of our day, and it's like,
Hmm.
why not put it out there and then let the right people find us? This is where my mindset is with this. So my goal is to be so visible that every time you open up your phone, you're like, boom, there's Cami, right? You might have to mute me. I'm just saying. Um,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
perfect, I think. I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's fun, I think long form and short form is really where we are going because long form video, long form written, love to be able to take that and read through it, and then some people are just like
yeah.
quick and go. So you got to kind of play on both, right?
Yeah, the attention spans
Yeah.
of people right now definitely have to be able to give them those quick bites. And then
Mm,
hopefully, after they see enough on the quick bites, they'll be willing to read an
that's it.
article or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm curious about the YouTube shorts. And like, I know that YouTube business videos, especially if it's like a how-to
Yeah.
or something, do really well. But the YouTube shorts, what kind of traction do you get on those?
It's interesting. Sometimes I get more views on those than I do on Instagram, which is interesting because I actually create them on Instagram. There I am. I'm uploading them from my phone on my app, and then I'm actually going in onto desktop and I'm adding in the descriptions inside of there, and I'm putting the keywords in there. That's something I didn't do before. Now that I've started doing that, I am getting a little bit more traction inside of there. But it's very relatively, I'm going to say almost the same, but I'm noticing that if I get views on my shorts, I'm noticing the views on my long form videos are also going up. So I'm noticing that if I just consistently do it, that's the key here. It's all consistency. I definitely use a planner to help keep my life from chaos. Like I really enjoy planners, so I can automatically schedule this stuff out. It's just to sit down, repurpose it, like thought process. Like okay, I just did this with you. Now I need to sit down and what's my next
Mhm.
steps, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's so intentional. It's
it
great.
has to be. Yeah, it has to be. And I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes, I mean, I'm backed up. I've been doing so many darn lives, like they're amazing and I'm backed up on some of them.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's future content that will get out
Mhm.
at some point or another, right to those other platforms. So yeah, I definitely say if you are creating a reel on Instagram, it should be going on Facebook Reels, it should be going on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, it should be going on YouTube Shorts. And if you're on Pinterest, make sure that you're driving a pin, create a pin to drive it to that reel as well and grow your Instagram.
That makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
it's like it's just working smarter, not harder, instead of creating all different kinds of content for things. Um, some things too that I get a lot of questions on are like, well, what platforms are dead? What platforms should I just stay completely away from?
hmm
Um, and this one's probably a hot topic one, but it's like Twitter. A lot of people love Twitter. And now it's X, but a lot of people are saying it's just tanking fast. Any opinion on that?
I've opened various accounts throughout the years that I've
Mhm.
just never maintained being on
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
I don't even think I've ever created one for Boomtag. I did
mhm,
do a Boomtag threads and played with it for a minute, but
yeah,
I just don't think that those type of platforms are, I don't know, probably going to drive a whole lot of
yeah.
business.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the strategies I'm hearing is that with threads specifically, is that the more active you are on threads, the more your Instagram is becoming more discoverable. And I'm
Hmm.
like, that's really interesting how these two are now playing with each other, right?
Yeah.
So maybe take your hot, juicy quote and go put it onto a graphic and go put it on your threads, right? Because those two are now tying things together to help boost that up. I'm also not a Threads gal. Like I have platforms over there, of course, but I'm not intentional on it. And
hmm
I have a client who did really really well on Twitter and hasn't really done much for a little while. But I think he's got like 10,000 people over there, and he wants to keep it going. And I'm like, crap. I'm so excited about this for you. Oh man, that means I need to have a Twitter account, right? Or an X account or whatever they're called. And so it's like I get over there and I'm just like, I have no desire to be on that platform. I never had it either when it was Twitter either, and I didn't want tweets.
hmm
I didn't want to do any of that thing. So for me, that's definitely a no-go for me. It's not something I'm going to be leaning into. Clubhouse is completely dead if anyone's still using it. Like you said, if you can't record your content at
hmm
this moment, you are wasting time, I feel like, in a sense. Like you have to be able to record yourself and repurpose it into the future.
Yeah.
Because it's your intellectual property, right? Like your thoughts, your energy, all of that's behind that. And if we had all of that, then you could turn it into books, you could turn it into quotes, you could turn it into articles or whatever it is after over time. So
hmm
I always like to work smarter, not harder here. Another one that came up that has been brought up was Blue Sky. Have you ever heard of this platform?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I've heard multiple things about it. It's another social media platform. But just I would say anyone who's kind of interested in or who's thinking about Blue Sky, I would tell them probably wait at least another 6 months just to see if it's
Yeah.
really going to go where they're all hoping. And then Substack is declining as well. So
Okay.
there's a couple of different other platforms that are people who are using and things like that. But I think it's very interesting too. just look at like what your strategy is and figure out what did we learn this year
Hmm.
and how can we either double down or totally pivot and shift, right? Like I really love Instagram. I've always loved this community over here and it's fun for me to create posts. I like creating posts. I like creating reels. But I do like longer um, like form copy and I get blocked off here a lot. So I have to turn it into other things like my blogs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, some things that I know next year, a lot of clients will be focused on like the major platforms. Like, if you, part of strategies is like, obviously, you have Pinterest, you have YouTube, you have LinkedIn, blogs are making a comeback for sure. Threads, because it has to go with Instagram, right? Those two are kind of married to each other. And then, obviously, potentially TikTok. So, I think it's really good if you are like an affiliate e-commerce. I know lives are really, really popular over there. So I think that's where we're heading in 2025. It's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. It's gonna be
Yeah.
really fun.
And not putting all of your eggs in one social media platform basket
Yes,
is what I've, been telling clients too.
absolutely. Spread
So
it.
definitely pick two
Yep,
that are not related. So
that's
you
right.
wouldn't want to just do Facebook and Instagram. You
Yep.
want to do, one that's not controlled by
Yeah.
the same company.
I agree with you. I think
Hmm.
diversifying the types of content because just like we talked about, it's like if we go to LinkedIn, you have more professionals over there, right? If you go to Facebook, that's more of like my high school, middle school, elementary school, family.
Yeah.
Like that's a different type of content than I would write for a professional piece versus what I would put on my Instagram profile. So each place, like if you're following me on all different places, I'm hoping that you get to see maybe 3 to 4 or 5 different versions of myself and what I'm putting out. Yes, you can repurpose content, but yet there's still this extra piece here that you get to maybe know me at a different level over on my Facebook than you do on my LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
And same thing with my YouTube. Maybe that's where I'm showing up more as a coach and I'm coaching and I'm sharing the how to's and the different things like that. I did something recently for a platform. I did kind of like a walkthrough on LinkedIn or not LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I put it up there and I actually got more views on that than probably any of my other things. So I know that people like even for myself, if I've got new software, I'm always going to YouTube and I'm like, how am I using this? How what's it work like for myself or for a client and just kind of walk them through that.
Mhm.
So I think that there's still it's a search engine, right? So
Yeah.
anytime we can search something, it's really important. I know Pinterest is there, Instagram's turning to that as well, but AI is also getting in the way, I feel like right now with Instagram. I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I didn't want AI. Go away. I just wanted to search for this hashtag or whatever it was. So it's fun to play with the new features, but also figure out what's going to work for you and what's
Yeah.
not, right?
And bringing some humanity to it. I
Yeah,
think it's okay to use AI to generate some ideas or something like that.
absolutely.
But if you aren't at least putting your own spin on it or showing up to
Yeah.
present what the ideas that AI gave
Yeah.
you, then, I think it's going to start to just get really like bland because
Yeah.
AI is going to be telling everyone to do the same thing.
Yeah.
You got to put your personality into it as well.
I completely agree. I'm like, write this 90% of the way and then AI fix it, make it sound better. Thank you.
Hmm.
Like then it's my own idea behind it versus AI just giving me all of these ideas, because it does you can like for me, let's talk about AI for just a second. I think you can notice this as well a mile away. When somebody's using AI, what are the first two things that you can tell like, oh, they use ChatGPT?
Oh, I don't know. I've heard other people say that they can pick up on that. I don't know if I have quite figured it out, but tell me what you find.
Okay. I can tell typically they use AI by the amount of emojis that are in their description.
Hmm.
Like that the sparkle emoji is
Yes.
like key giveaway. And we all love the sparkle emoji, right? But AI has totally ruined it for us seeing it
Hmm.
there, right? So you have to clean up your emojis first off. And then another one, sometimes they will now and do like in conclusion or in recap or to let's think about this for real like like they have just their little phrases that are in
Hmm.
there. They have so many different phrases. But I think that moving forward, next year's people's strategy should definitely be use it like you said, put our own ideas into it and make them better. Put the human behind
Yeah.
it, get, jog up some ideas, like give yourself 10 story prompts and then go take that prompt and then go tell your own story with the prompt, right?
Yes. I have
Don't
noticed it's
have it right.
way too wordy. Like, anytime prompt it to write something for me, I end up taking out at least 30 to 40% of the words that it
Yeah.
uses. It just like over explains,
Yeah.
use way too many words. And I'm like, people, like I said, attention spans, people aren't going to read all that.
No, they're not. They're not. I was listening to one of my coaches and she's like, "Yeah," she goes, "One of the best, like I always thought like a good 500 word blog was like the best like length." And she's like, "No, actually 1500 word blogs are now what's popular again." And I'm like, "Whoa. That's a lot of words."
Hmm.
Like a 1500 word blog is huge. Now, I decided to play with that. I took one of my videos and I created it into an article and then I created it into a blog and did the whole rabbit hole of creation, right? And like there's so much juiciness inside of that that I can repurpose probably for the rest of the year. 1500 words is a
That is a
lot, right?
lot. Yeah.
So I mean, if you can get to the point where you're like turning things into some fantastic articles, like you can really repurpose a lot of things inside of there. So I think that that's what it's all about right now is just how can we create the long form content, move it into the short form, or take the short form and extend onto it? If we're doing a 6 second video, right? Like, how can we take that and turn it into something that's more meaningful? Can we lean into it a little bit more and give some more detail on why this is even important and why we should even take 5 seconds and read the rest of this article? And I think that that's where I want to really move my content into next year. So I got some silly award on Instagram. They're starting to gamify things. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've noticed that yet. It's like
Yeah.
you've done da 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 da. And it's like I have two different Instagram accounts. I have a personal account and I have this business account that we're on now. And my business account's like, "Congratulations, you've reached over 500 reels." And I'm like, holy moly. I remember when it was hard for me to create one reel.
Hmm.
Like that one reel took me probably 4 hours to create and it was probably 15 seconds. Like I'm telling you, because back then we didn't have AI to help write captions. Like I had to come up with the actual idea myself. I had to figure out like how to write my top threes or whatever it was that I did. And it took so long. And now it's like I can create a reel in probably less than 5 minutes, which is fantastic, and I can put my piece out there, right? And so now it's just such a different world. But that 500 reels, if you go back and look at all of the content you've created, go look at your descriptions, right? Most people don't read your descriptions. So take those descriptions and turn them into articles or turn them into
Hmm.
carousels or put them in your stories. There's so much we can do with that.
Yeah,
So,
I love the repurposing. And I
mhm,
have clients that I've had for over a year now. And
yeah,
so now I'm starting to see the avenue to start
yes,
repurposing stuff that I created for them, a year ago. Why
that's right.
not bring some of that back? Change, if it's a graphic, change the graphic a little bit,
Yeah,
um, edit,
yeah,
and reword it, but it's basically the same thing. And repetitiveness in marketing is not bad
no,
because we need to, really convey the value that we
yeah,
deliver. And sometimes you have to tell people over and
yeah.
over.
It's so funny you say that because I sit at the nursing home a lot with my mom because that's where she is. And so she watches the regular TV and I see the commercials that come on, which, in my house, we stream everything. So there's no
Mhm.
commercials. But at hers, there's commercials that come on. And it's like the Hershey Kisses one has caught my attention this year because I've seen it since I was a child. And it's the one that they're shaped in a tree and it's like ding, 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 ding,
Mhm.
ding,
The
and it's
bells.
the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, the bells. And it's like, okay, I've been looking at that same commercial probably since I was a child, right? Nothing has changed about that. Coca-Cola has not really much changed. Maybe some of their graphics has changed, but not much, right?
Hmm.
Same thing with Pepsi, all of these other things. And what they're doing is they're repurposing ideas. They're repurposing those things and they're bringing them back and giving them a fresher look.
Right.
Why can we not do it? If the
Exactly.
billion-dollar companies are doing it, why are we not doing it? Right? Why are we cracking our head over this and be like, "Oh my gosh, I got to create something. I just don't know what."
Hmm.
So that's where I'm at. I love it.
Yeah.
This was such a fun conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So has our conversation led you down to anything, any other paths that you're like, I need to look into this a little
Mhm.
bit more?
Yeah, so Pinterest, I had been hearing some things about, but I think I'm gonna look into that a little bit more. I don't know if I have any clients that it would be good
Mhm.
for, but potentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to go look at the vertical
Mhm,
reels on LinkedIn. I'm
mhm,
like, ooh, how can I use this in the future? I
mhm.
think that that's going to be a really good one. And then I also want to see about these lives. So I've never done a live. I've never done anything over there on LinkedIn. So maybe you'll have to do that with me
That
because
would be
I've never
fun.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's put that on the schedule for next year because
Okay.
I'm like, oh, this could be a really fun platform for me to dive into as well. So just
Hmm.
test it out. And I think it's more fun to do it with somebody than by yourself talking into the blank hole.
Yep.
So,
I learned that with my first Instagram live. My first Instagram live was just me by myself trying, to go through some material that I thought would be really helpful
yeah,
for my followers. And like it didn't take away from that, but the fact
yeah,
that it was just me talking is very hard to be on camera just by yourself.
yeah.
So I appreciate the conversation as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if I'm going to do it by myself, I want to use that. This is where I've came to my brain is like, if I'm going to do it by myself, I'm going to do it on YouTube. And if I'm going to do it with somebody, I want it to be on
Mhm.
like social media platforms I'm going to call a friend.
Right.
You're my friend, right? So
Yeah.
this is more fun for me than it is just by myself. Like
Hmm.
it's awkward.
Yes.
It's, and it's awkward for everybody. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, right? So it's just awkward.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, that was great. I hope anybody sees this. Maybe one or two people. That's great. So fun. Well, Kendra, it's been so fun. I can't wait to see what you do next year. I'm definitely gonna be watching closely. And have a Merry Christmas, girl.
You too.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
I will chat with you soon. See ya.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.